it was a strange feeling. I mean, it was like something was watching you, and you know that if you go into those woods, chances are you're not going to make it out, or if you do, you're going to be traumatized for the rest of your life.
You're listening to the Cryptid Crew Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Childers. Before we get started, if you've had an encounter or an experience or just something unexplained, click on our link tree in the description and share your encounter. Thank you for listening to the Cryptid Crew Podcast. On this episode of the Cryptid Crew Podcast, I have the privilege of introducing host of Mysteries in the Timbers podcast and Bigfoot enthusiast, John Knight. John, thank you for coming on the show.
Not a problem, brother. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, awesome to have you. I've been looking forward to this. I guess we have a couple of things in common. We both host podcasts.
Yep.
And we both enjoy the topics of mystery and Bigfoot. But also, we have something else in common, and I did not realize it until we talked on the phone earlier. We both have recorded UAPs. And
yes,
could you tell us what led up to that?
Yeah. So I was up in northern Michigan, not the UP, just the upper north in the Mitten area. And out there with my cousins, we were just out having a good time. We were out deer hunting during the day. And that night we were just outside smoking and joking and happened to look up. And my cousin was the one who recorded it. And she's like, "What is that?" And we're looking and we're like, "Oh, well, maybe it's a satellite or something." But then the flight path was completely weird on it. And it just was nothing like we'd ever seen. And where we filmed that at, it's right in the heart of what's known as the Michigan Triangle. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Yes, I've heard of it. I don't know much about it, but I have heard of it.
Yep. So there's a lot of UAP, UFO sightings up in that area. And that was just one that we happened to get on camera. And it was one of those moments where I was too busy watching it. And my cousin was the smart one of the family. And she was the one who started recording it. And I was like, "Man, that is so cool." So, of course, I had to make sure that she sent it to me right away.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I tried to download it to pull it up. I'm not able to do that, but I'll put a link in the description for the viewers to check it out. But you could tell the pattern of the flight was not regular. It was not a straight line. It was kind of, I wouldn't say erratic, but it was definitely different.
Yeah, it was definitely not a satellite. They kind of fly in their path and you can kind of predict where they're going to be. This one, not so much. Like it would go and then, it would go from right to left and then kind of drift up a little bit. And it was just something cool. And it was happened for, I think we got like a 36-second video of it or something like that. And that was it. Like we seen it, it showed itself to us, and then it just took off.
Right. Yeah, that's on your Instagram, correct?
Yes, sir. It's right on Mysteries in the Timber podcast.
Okay. Yeah, I'll put a link in the description as well for your podcast and your link for that and your social media. But that particular area, you mentioned the triangle. I had someone on maybe a year ago. Have you ever heard of John Billman he's wrote a couple of books, The Cold Vanish, but he lives in the UP, Upper Peninsula. And he had talked about the triangle a little bit, but we also talked about the Kinross incident, where I guess it was early 50s, Air Force jet disappeared, intercepting a UAP or UFO at the time. So the sightings date back quite some time.
Oh, absolutely. And what's crazy is in Lake Michigan, they have the largest collection of P-38 airplanes that all vanished off of there. There's a German U-boat in Lake Michigan right off of Ludington area, which the Navy brought in during World War II as target practice, actually, from the Great Lakes Naval Academy. And then there's all sorts of UAP, UFO sightings all up and down the coast. And there was a famous one that came out, I want to say it was in the early 2000s, and the modern day Unsolved Mysteries did a deep dive on it, where it was reported in, I want to say Muskegon, which for, you know, we got to look at Michigan like the mitt, right? So I'm here, Muskegon's up here, and everything's happening right in there. And it was going from Muskegon to South Haven, which if you were to drive that, that would be a 2-hour drive, and it was making it in minutes. And the elevation of it was going from like 200 feet above ground level up to 14,000 feet in a matter of seconds. And it was just zigzagging up and down for hours.
That's
Yeah.
insane. Did people get footage of
Oh,
this?
there's footage all over. And the air traffic controller that was monitoring it, he recorded everything. There's hours of video of this thing on radar and just people filming it. I mean, and it happens all the time. We used to sit down when I was a kid. I lived right on Lake Michigan, and you could sit out there at night and just see, at the time, my grandparents and parents would tell me, "Oh, it's just satellites," or "Oh, it's just
Right.
something." But you'd see stuff in the sky nightly. It's a really active area. And it
Right.
doesn't help that we have a nuclear power plant right in South Haven as well.
That's really interesting as well. You have something like that, and there's been reports, through the years of UAPs or UFOs hovering around power plants and like you just mentioned, nuclear power plants as well. So I guess that combines with everything combines for a lot of activity.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it happens here and it happens all over the world. And there's all sorts of reports about it. And for me, it's pretty cool. It's right in my back and front yard. And I just try to get out there as much as I can to see it.
John, was that recording over water that your cousin got, you and your cousin?
No, that was recorded right in the heart of the Manistee Forest. So she owns a little property that we cut out, and that's where that was filmed up.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that the one I've recorded 2. One I have absolutely no explanation for because of the movement. It was a bright white light. It was over water. It was close to the Gulf of Mexico, close to Pensacola, near
Okay.
Perdido Key, Florida, and it was over a bay. But yeah, it caught us off guard, and I wish I had not zoomed in so quickly with my camera. Of course, I got excited, but it was really strange. It moved laterally and from my right to left and moved. I thought it disappeared, and then it moved back right again, which would have been east, and it just sat there, and then it moved back again, and it was just the strangest thing.
Man.
But yeah, your footage that you guys got, it's something different for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's I'm glad we got it. Well, I'm glad she got it. I wasn't even thinking about it. And I'm glad that it's nice and a clear video. Like you can see everything.
Yes, good. It's good footage. It really is. John, let me ask you this: what do you think of all the congressional hearings that have happened over the last year or two with these military personnel coming out, you know, as witnesses?
Yeah. Um, they're onto something. So of course my buddies and I talk about this all the time because we're not into sports. So we no, we talk about it. And what's funny is every time there's a congressional hearing, they always put it on either like slow news day or something like that where they don't really promote it. So they'll do the congressional hearing and there will be almost zero media coverage of it. And then typically right after the cover or right after the congressional hearing, there's usually some giant scandal that pops up or they bring up the Epstein file or they'll bring up something that's happened in Hollywood and kind of push it all under the radar. The government's really good at covering stuff up. And with these congressional hearings, it's people wanting to get everything out there. And in my opinion, I think the government is doing the bare bones minimum to get it out there and then just flooding the news with stuff that doesn't matter. But I truly believe all of these guys. I mean, these are career military leadership, or, leaders that are coming out and saying this. And then the American people, they want to hear it. They want to know what's going on, but no one is pushing the envelope. I mean, you have James Fox, who, he's done a couple documentaries. He's huge about it. He wants to get it out there. And I think with this movie coming out by Steven Spielberg, I know it's coming out soon. I'm not exactly sure when, but it's all about disclosure. And I'm hoping that that kind of bumps it up a little bit and kind of puts it in front of people who wouldn't normally be interested in this stuff, to try to get the truth out there, to try to see what's actually behind all of these UAP, UFOs, and everything.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's, I think, way more to it than what they feed us, and I'm saying
Oh,
feed
yeah.
us for a reason, but I think it needs to get, just kind of like the subject of any other cryptid or mystery. If it gets into the mainstream, I think you'll have a little more push to find out, hey, what is going on? If there's enough pressure on some of the, politicians to get the information out to the public.
Oh, absolutely. And then you also have like people out there, like, have you seen the new Age of Disclosure movie that just came out?
I have not.
So I watched it. I was super excited for it. I paid the $20 to rent it or whatever it was. And behind it is a lot of politicians talking about it, about how we need to have disclosure. But at the same point, Lou Elizondo is on there.
Mhm.
And I don't know how you feel about him. Personally, I've never met the guy. He might be an awesome guy. But I think a lot of the stuff that he's putting out is disinformation and kind of giving us a little taste of the truth, but 90% of it is just BS. Kind of like what Richard Doty did, couple decades ago.
Mhm.
And so I think they are telling us some of the truth mixed in with all their disinformation. And it's up to us to kind of figure out, okay, well, what is truthful about this and what's complete BS?
Yes, I totally agree with what you're saying. They allow, I guess they want us to filter, do the filtering of the information that we get. And like you said, try to determine what's real and what's not. This goes way back. I did a short a good while back on some of the Project Blue Book stuff, but it goes all the way back into the 50s,
Oh, yeah.
UFO sightings, UAP sightings. And actually, UAP was actually a term back then. UFOs kind of stuck for a long time, for decades, but, UAP is same
Yeah.
thing.
And back in World War II, originally it was the Foo Fighters. It was what the American pilots would see while flying missions. They would see Foo Fighters because they didn't know what it was. And I want to say, I might be completely wrong, but I want to say Foo Fighter was originally a German word that the Germans were using, and the Americans just heard it as a foo. So then they called them the Foo Fighters.
Right. Yeah, some of the sightings or the reports vary. They didn't really, I guess, know how to describe things, or didn't have flying saucer was a popular term then. I've got a magazine. I collect different things, and on the front of this Life magazine, it has Marilyn Monroe as the cover, but it also talks about a flying saucer. And this was 1951, I believe. So people didn't know how to, I guess, describe what they were seeing.
Oh, absolutely. You can even look back at like ancient Mayan and Aztec, you know, pictographs where, and I don't want to go through the whole ancient alien theories and stuff, but I mean, some of it might be on, but they would have flying serpents carved into their, monuments. Now, clearly they wouldn't know what an airplane was or a cylindrical shape in the air. They would relate it to something that they would see all the time. So are these flying serpents their pitation or their, thoughts of what a UFO was or a UAP? So if
Right.
you don't know how to describe something because you've never seen anything, you're going to automatically go to something that is familiar to you. So who's to say that their serpents and everything like that flying through the air weren't UAPs or UFOs?
Absolutely. John, let's transition into something else that is, I'm going to say legendary. folklore or legendary tales in your state, and that's the dog man. And it seems to be kind of a popular topic. I know Small Town Monsters just came out with I don't know if you keep up with them.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, they just had one come out, a documentary recently. But have you heard any stories or reports in your area?
Oh, man. Yeah. So you hear more reports of that than you would Bigfoot around here, but a lot of people also, to me anyways, I feel like they would misidentify them. You just see this giant hairy beast in the woods, you instantly go to Bigfoot. And then Dogman is, yeah, he's a local legend here in Michigan. A majority of the sightings around here of Dogman actually is about an hour north of where I'm at. So he's lots of reports in the Manistee area, especially you'll get a lot more reports in the fall. But like you typically mid-September to the end of October during like an archery season for whitetail, because that's huge up here. And you'll have people having reports of seeing something or hearing giant howls and stuff that you don't typically hear around here. Another one that we hear a lot of and that my buddy witnessed is up in the UP or the Upper Peninsula. There's a small town. I mean, it's tiny on a map, and it's called Paulding, and they have what's known as the Paulding Lights. And it's a very hot spot for paranormal stuff going on. And we all decided to drive 7 hours up there to check it out one time. And we were talking to locals about it. And this one woman we were talking to was like, yeah, you can go check out the lights. That's fine. But if you're going to walk out there, stay in the path, because it's basically like a path cut down between power lines. That's about what it looks like. And she's like, telling us not to, you can walk down there, that's fine, but don't go into the woods on either side. And it was me and all my buddies, and we're like, we'll go in there. Why not? And it was one of those moments where it gets dark, you start seeing the light, and the light is just like an orb that zigzags around, and there's no pattern to its flight path or anything. So we saw that, and we're like, hey, let's go hit the woods and see what we can find. And it was one of those moments where you leave the car and you're walking towards the woods, and you just get this overwhelming like fear in you that you don't want to go in there. And all my buddies that were out there with me, including myself, we're all retired from the army. We've been in gunfights and everything else. And to have four grown men just kind of like stop all simultaneously, all without saying a word to each other, and just kind of like pausing for a moment. And we're like, do we really want to do this? And it was just, you get there, and it was a strange feeling. I mean, it was like something was watching you, and you know that if you go into those woods, chances are you're not going to make it out. Or if you do, you're going to be traumatized for the rest of your life. So we were up there and we stood there for a good 5 minutes, just not saying a word. And we decided it'd be smarter just to go back to the camp. We're like, you know what? We're up here. We all trying to just talk ourselves out of it. And we get back to the camp, and we're all sitting there like thinking, we're like, why did that happen? Like, why were we startled by this? And my buddy Matt, who actually lives up there, is like, dude, it happens to me all the time when I'm in that area. He's like, you'll be in the woods or something, and you'll just get this fear that, or this feeling that someone's watching you, and you just get that cold shiver down your spine. And he's like, and I turn around. He's like, I don't deal with that anymore.
That's extremely creepy.
Oh, very. But yeah, during hunting seasons out here, you hear lots of reports. And growing up around here and being an avid hunter, I would hear reports of people's deer missing and stuff like that. And I just chalked it up to bad shot placement and really bad tracking job, right? You find blood, you can find a deer. Well, it actually happened to me this October where I know we were talking before the show about my county in Michigan, Allegan County, and the BFRO, and they have a spot on there. And you're like, oh, it's in the state game area. And that's exactly where I hunt. And this is exactly where it happened. So mid-October, I was out doing some bow hunting like I normally do, and I had this little spike come out. And being on state land, I mean, I'm going to take it for the freezer, especially early season. So I made a perfect shot. I got it all on video, and I thought this deer was going down. So I waited about an hour. It started getting dark. And I climb out of the tree and I find blood right away. It's a good shot. And I track it about 30 yards in the thick brush. And I'm finding giant piles of blood, I'm like, all right, I've got a deer on the ground, and walked up, and there was a massive pile of blood. Like it had been bled out, but there was no deer. And at the time we didn't have a lot of snow because it was mid-October, but we did have a lot of rain, and it was just super muddy out there. So I mean, I could follow my tracks no problem. But this deer just vanished. And my first thought was, oh, coyotes. Coyotes must have got him. So I'm looking around, and coyotes, they're going to leave something behind. And at this point, it's probably hour and a half, maybe 2 hours from the time I shot him. And you would have heard it. But no, I went down, I looked all night till about 11 o'clock at night, went home, got a little bit of sleep, called my boss and said, hey, I've got a deer on the ground. I'm going to be late to work. And I went out there and I looked until noon, and I never found another drop of blood, never found a deer, nothing. And, you know, feeling defeated, like, and confused, I had no idea what had gone on. I walked back to my truck and I'm just driving to work, and I pull into a gas station to get gas, and I go inside to pay. And the guy's like, hey, what's wrong with you? And I'm telling him my story. I'm like, man, I shot a deer yesterday. I can't find it. And he's like, you in the state game area? I'm like, yeah. And I told him right where I was hunting. He's like, man, that happens all the time. And it like clicked in my mind. I'm like, what do you mean this happens all the time? He's like, oh, last year I lost 2 deer out of there. And I know, he's like, oh, one of my buddies lost a deer a couple years ago. He's like, yeah, you're like the second or third person this season that's already lost one. And I'm like, man, that is, you know, why is this not being talked about more? And because of that reason right there is what made me want to start up my podcast, to get people out, people's stories out there so we can figure this stuff out. Well, I went back out there a couple days later to hunt some more, and I'm walking around and I'm seeing, what I learned later was tree structures, and just giant ones just bent over, and trees almost weaved together as like a tent, or like somewhere for one to, just rest up and nap in. And it's all right where I'm hunting. And I'm like, how come I've never seen this before? And in that same spot where it's away from the power lines where I hunt, and it's probably a mile into the woods, and there's a spot in there that I can walk right to and show you, but you break out your compass and your needle will just start drifting. You know where north is, you know where east and west is. I have a map and I'll put my compass right out, and it'll start drifting, and not like a little bit. It'll go off, you know, 20 degrees in either direction at any given time. So it's just one of those weird hot spots that, I mean, I've heard stories of it happening. I always chopped it up to, it's not going to happen to me. And then it happened to me just recently, and it's got me a little concerned about that spot. But I tell you what, when it gets a little bit nicer out, I'm definitely going out and taking pictures and investigating that area a lot more.
John, let me ask you this. Well, I mean, I guess it really didn't come to mind until that guy mentioned something to you about the other missing deer, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I just chalked it up to, well, maybe it got up and walked away, like, and just stopped bleeding. Cause I mean, weirder things have happened. You shoot a deer and the blood trail stops and it just keeps going. And I'm watching the video, I'm watching where I hit, because I'm an avid hunter, and actually that's all I do in the fall. So I'm really concerned. And now I just want this deer to be recovered, and never seen it. And I still hunt in that area, and I'm constantly looking for it, because I mean, it's it has to be deader than dead. And you'd think birds would be over it, or coyotes or something like that. Because the last 2 years ago, there's a healthy coyote population out there. This year, I've not seen one. So I'm like, I just can't explain it. It just up and vanished.
Did you hear um, any vocalizations from any animals or any foot traffic or anything like that, coyotes or what have you?
Not that day, and that day was really slow on all my trail cameras. I didn't get any pictures, which is rare. And normally every other time I'm out there, you'll see deer, and the owls out there are crazy, which is I learned later on listening to different podcasts and stuff that, you know, Sasquatch or Bigfoot or anyone, take your pick of your name, will like try to imitate an owl. And once I started listening to that and hearing that, I was like, well, next time I hear an owl, I'm going to see if it really sounds like one. And I was out there with my daughter hunting one time and we heard it. And she's like, that sounds like an owl, but not really. And I've listened a little bit more and I'm like, you're right. It sounds like something trying to, or impersonate an owl. And hearing that and then realizing I've heard it hundreds of other times out there on my hunts. And it's always three owls and you'll hear two across from each other. And it's almost like they're triangulating. You'll hear two going east to west, and then all of a sudden one would come up from the north. And you're like, oh, well, they're just talking. They're owls. And then after the guy at the gas station was talking to me about it, and then after my daughter mentioned it, I was like, man, that is a really peculiar spot. And that's how, you know, when I talk to other hunters, I asked them that too. I'm like, well, you ever see anything strange out there? And they're like, oh, no, we've never seen Bigfoot or Dogman or anything like that. But there was this one weird bear, and there was like these weird owls out there being being in that boat too for the longest time. I was like, yeah, there's weird noises out there, but that's just the animals. Then you're thinking about it, and that one day where it all lines up, you're like, man, like that's not an owl. That's not, whatever insert known animal here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like I'd mentioned before, pieces of the puzzle. You have your deer disappear. You had somebody else telling you about other deer, disappearing. The owls mimics, possible tree structures. And then, so what do you have? It's just, is it coincidental or is it something,
Absolutely. I mean, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's got to be a duck.
Right. Let me paint the picture then. So that particular day, you shot the deer and had a good blood trail, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then when you got to where you thought the deer might lay down, there was a large pool of blood there. And
Yep.
then the
Yeah. It looked like
animal was
it had
gone.
laid down right there. And you could tell it was a bedded spot. That's where he had laid to die. And in no time, with no sound, he was gone.
Was it quiet in the woods?
It was eerily quiet. And that was something that I noticed walking out because, my footsteps were really loud. And I was like, man, that's odd. Normally I'll walk pretty quietly through the woods and you'll hear the sounds of the forest will help cover it up. But there was no sounds that night.
Yeah, that's really strange, really interesting. Let me ask you this as well. Going back to the orbs, have you heard anybody associate the orbs with any other things?
I have. I've heard stories of and talking to different people, future guests on the show, they would describe seeing the orbs and then all of a sudden they would hear something in the woods or they would see the orbs and then either later on that night they would have a Bigfoot encounter or something paranormal would happen. And so many times that you'll hear stories connecting the orbs to different Bigfoot events. And I mean, I've heard theories of that the Bigfoots are the orbs flying around. I've heard, the orbs are UAPs that are dropping off their Bigfoot pets. I mean, personally, I can see the orbs, being a way for a Sasquatch to come in and out of this realm or this world that we're living in now. I mean, that's my theory on everything, and that's it.
That's I was about to ask you that if you were in the camp of totally flesh and blood, or I guess you could say woo, and me saying woo, meaning interdimensional or a way of,
I
moving from one place to another and without leaving evidence, although there is some evidence, we have tracks,
Oh
you
yeah,
supposedly have hair as well. And then you have thousands of reports as well.
Yeah, I think that it's part of the woo. I feel like they can, the orbs are what helps them go from, one universe to the next or one world to ours. And then once they're here, that's when the physical, the prints, the hair, the sightings, that's when all of that happens. And then when they go back to their world, that's when they turn back into the orbs and go.
Yeah. I had a gentleman I met a couple of years ago. He had not believed in Bigfoot or never really thought much about it. And he was with some buddies camping, and it was at night, and there was an orb, not terribly far off the ground, maybe the first level of limbs in a pine tree. And they kind of followed, one of the guys followed the orb into the forest. And when he did, the orb disappeared. And then just seconds later, they heard crashing through the brush, like limbs breaking. And
Yeah.
so you just mentioning that made me think of that. And those two coincide with each other.
You hear so many reports about it. And then if we hear that many reports, how many reports are out there that people aren't bringing up or they're like not connecting the puzzle pieces?
Exactly. Yeah. There's no telling how many that's never reported.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. That's that area you're talking about. It just sounds like it's really active.
Yeah, I'm once we did rid of all the snow that we're getting dumped on right now in this winter storm, I definitely want to go back out there. And I mean, that's where I turkey hunt. I do a lot of my hunting out there. And I just want to get to know it a little bit better. And I know the woods like the back of my hand, but I never really paid that close attention. And when I get back out there, I really want to pay attention and take pictures and try to document as much stuff in that area as I can. And then chances of me getting something on trail camera is, next to none. But I have a closet full of trail cameras that I throw out every season. So I'm going to throw them out there and just, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst.
Sure. Yeah, that's boots on the ground. That's the best way to do your research.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, John, at the end of each episode, we do a rapid fire Q&A, and I'll ask you 3 questions, and it's just casual, but it's the first thing that comes to your mind.
I've been waiting for this one.
All right. Are you ready? Number 1, favorite cryptid?
Hopkinsville goblins.
Okay, I'm not familiar with the
So,
Hopkinsville goblins.
yep. There is an incident out there, and it's actually covered in the Blue Book incident. And it was a report of this family was in the house, and they started hearing a bunch of random noises around the house. And when they went out to see what was going on, a lady was grabbed. There was a little alien or like goblin that reached over and grabbed her hair and tried lifting her up. And she ran back inside, told all the men of the house. The men armed themselves with everything they had. They had like an all night shootout with these things. And the next day when the sun came up, the police came out. Like one of the family members got out, went to the police station. And like there's an actual paper trail of law enforcement up there documenting everything that they saw. And the amount of ammo, spent casings on the floor, it was really like for me, it was super intriguing. And that was the first thing that really got me hooked into all of this. Uh, and seeing it on like the Blue Book documentaries and stuff like that, it's pretty cool. And still, I believe to this day, they have a weekend event in Kentucky all about the goblins.
Really? What do they speculate they are?
So they were thinking at first that I want to say Heinrich's thought on it was owls, that they're owls in a mix of great horned owls and swamp gas, is what Alan Hynek had wrote in the Blue Book papers. But everyone else thinks that they were reports of aliens all the way down to radioactive monkeys that escaped a circus.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah,
That's crazy. Number 2, favorite movie?
Idiocracy.
Idiocracy. I'm not familiar with Idiocracy.
Oh, that's a documentary at this point in time.
Okay.
So it came out in, I want to say 2000 or 2000. It was from the creators of Beavis and Butthead. And it was talking about how stupid the future is going to be. And worth checking out, brother.
I'm gonna have to check that out then. All right, final one, number 3, and I think I know the answer to this. Favorite hobby?
That's got to be hunting. Anything outdoors, hunting, fishing. If there's a season, I'm after it.
Gotcha. Typically, what do you when you fish? What do you fish for?
Typically bass. We'll go out bass fishing in the spring and in the fall. Salmon is huge on Lake Michigan, so we'll go out there hammer some salmon. My buddy's out hammering the steelhead yesterday and this morning. I was supposed to go, but it was too cold for this guy.
What's the low this week?
The low tonight, I want to say is -9.
-9.
The next 10 days, the highest it's supposed to be is 21.
Wow.
So we're gonna do some good ice. We're gonna be able to go do some ice fishing. So that's gonna be fun.
Yeah, that's something I've never done, and you don't do in Alabama. I don't know of anybody doing any ice fishing.
No, no. And if you guys do get ice, you don't want to stand on that. I mean, out here, we'll drive our trucks out on the rivers and lakes, and we did a bunch of ice.
How thick does it get?
There's places out here that will get 18 inches of ice, which
That's
if
really
you have
thick.
a hand auger, that's a lot of spinning that drill to get down into it.
Yeah, yeah, and what? And I guess you're fishing for the same thing, right? Steelhead.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll fish for anything from perch, bluegill, bass. We've pulled salmon, muskie, pike. If
Walleye.
it's in the water, we'll pull them out.
Do you have walleye?
Absolutely. Yep.
That's one of my favorite fish to eat. I've only had it a couple of times, but I had it in Minnesota one time. It was fantastic.
Oh, man, we hammer the walleye out here. And we'll drive over to Ohio and fish on Lake Erie and just hammer them there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, John, tell the listeners how they can stay in touch with you, check out your podcast, Mystery in the Timbers, and your social media.
Yeah, absolutely. On Instagram, it's Mysteries in the Timber with underscores between each word. It's a fairly new podcast. I'm on episode 5, which is going to be released, I want to say next Tuesday. Yeah, I want to get stories out there. So if anyone has a story that they want to tell, come on, DM me on Instagram and I'll get back with you. You can find the podcast on Apple Podcast and Spotify, and we do a YouTube live as well, twice a month. And typically we'll know a couple days before and post all about it.
Gotcha. Well, good deal. I hope it goes well for you. I know you'll do good at it. You really will.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we'll have to have you on sometime, brother.
Yeah, I'd love to come on. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I appreciate you taking your time out of your schedule to come on here.
Oh, of course. I loved it.
Good deal. Well, John, thank you again. And for the listeners, if you've had an encounter or an experience or just something strange, click on our link tree in the description and share your encounter. Thank you for listening, and God bless.